Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. This is a young man who is 20. He does not identify whether he is also on the spectrum, but he says that a special needs person, and he doesn't know what their diagnosis is, has a crush on him at work. He identifies himself as a 20-year-old male, and the person who has the crush on him is a 35-year-old male. He says he won't leave me alone. When I started the job back in August, I would push carts in the parking lot, and even then he would stick to me like glue. I now work as a cashier in the store, but he still hangs around me, helping me by bagging people's stuff, even though I didn't ask him to. At first, I didn't mind him and was nice to him, but now he thinks we're best friends and follows me to my car when we're leaving. When I'm leaving. Every time we see each other around, he always says hi, even if we literally just did this 30 seconds before. He always tells me to pull my mask down so he can see my face and asks to hang out outside of work. What really makes me uncomfortable now is that sometimes when saying bye to each other, he says, I love you. Quietly, but I can still hear him, and he tries to go for physical contact. I even spot him watching me when I'm in my car on my break. I try ignoring him, but I can't really do that when he's breathing down my neck. I don't know if I should be direct with him and tell him to leave me alone, because I'm not sure if I'll get written up or fired for being mean to him, because that has happened here before. And I don't know the details. I really wish I was never nice to him in the first place, because I kind of brought this upon myself. I also don't know what kind of disability he has. And this just breaks my heart all over the place. I so appreciate the fact that this person wrote in, and I hope that you've got some good information for them, Dr.
I do. And I first of all, I just want to say I'm so happy, thankful, Shannon, that we have a place where someone like this could write in.
Yes.
There's a lot I want to tell you. And there's many different sides to this. So let's talk about that. To begin with, I get the impression that you feel you are being harassed. And when you have a fear of being written up or fired for just protecting yourself or defending your own situation or your own existence, your area, your territory, your sense of safety, security, that's called harassment.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it sexual harassment, but it is harassment, and no one should ever be exposed to that. So first of all, you do not want to be in a situation where you fear or you're allowing this person to do things that make you uncomfortable, because, just because you're afraid that you're going to lose your job. So let's just start right there. Now, of course, so if it was any other person, if it wasn't a person with a disability, I guess you would at this point have talked to HR, which would be the right thing to do, your human resources department. And you would have said, this individual is making me feel very intimidated, afraid, uncomfortable, whatever it is. And you would describe everything that you just told us. And then HR would go and talk to this individual and would tell them they can't do the following things. And then hopefully that would resolve it. And that's how things work. At any job, there's always an HR representative, and this is how things are meant to be. Now, you're very compassionate because you feel like, oh, there's something, I should be more careful about this because this is someone with a disability, and how do I actually handle it? And that's nice of you, and that's very kind of you. And there are two things I want to tell you about that. One is that you still go to HR, you still talk to HR, and you tell them the way you feel. And you explain to them that you feel uncomfortable and that you feel like this person is staring at you, stalking you, following you, telling you on lower volume, I love you, trying to touch you. These are things that anyone would start to feel uncomfortable about. And if there will, once you've told HR that, they will either know how to deal with it. In other words, it's possible that you come from an HR department, you have an HR department that where they've received some training and they know how to handle this particular disability. And it's possible that they don't. In which case, the best scenario is if you and your HR rep together read, learn about how to best manage this type of behavior. Now I'm going to go back and be on the other side of the individual with disability for a minute. And I want to say that, for instance, if this individual has autism, okay, they are not going to be able to read what's making you uncomfortable. They're going to have a very hard time with this concept of taking another person's perspective. And they will not be offended if you are direct with them. Now, when you're direct with someone on the spectrum, it's not like you go to them and say, leave me alone. Leave me alone is too broad of a statement. And the person will think like, oh my God, I can't even interact with this person anymore. No, you detail exactly what it is. So what you would do, now this is with the blessing of HR, with an HR department that has some education about this. The way that it would be handled is they would assign someone to this individual who can guide the individual every day for 5 minutes in the day, either in the morning or at the end of the day. And they will give them very specific rules. Like, for instance, it's not appropriate to ask other people to remove their masks so that you could see their face. That makes people uncomfortable. That's one lesson. Then another lesson would be it's not okay to follow people to their cars, because when you do that, people feel afraid. You don't do that anymore, even if you like the person. Another feedback would be it could be intimidating or scary for someone if you say I love you and they're not in a relationship with you. So each of those individual things, or like, you don't go and help this person bag. It's not your job to do that. You go and do your job. And they teach the person. So the ideal scenario would be that, because you now have assistance from someone in the HR department to help you feel protected. And the individual is actually learning how to be a better employee and how to not make other people uncomfortable, because then going forward they will have the opportunity to actually have a job. And I hate it, Shannon, when everybody avoids the subject, because this person is now not learning how to improve their behavior as well, and they might lose a lot of future opportunities because of that. So that's kind of the best way to deal with it. And hopefully you have a good HR department that can manage it. But as far as you're concerned, you definitely need to go talk to HR and get their guidance, because you are an employee there. And listen, if they fire you or write you up, there's a million other steps you take. But most HR departments will not do that. And they will guide you and hopefully advise you how to handle the situation better.
Yeah, I so appreciate what you said, Dr. Grampiche. This whole thing about let's avoid the subject, let's not say anything, let's excuse it because the person has a disability. I find that never is helpful to anyone. And, not everybody agrees with me, though. I often, when we're not in COVID, go to events. And I have many friends who are adult self-advocates on the spectrum, and we'll be in a social situation and something will invariably happen, as it does, no matter if it's all neurotypical people or a nice mix. But what I love is that the people who are on the spectrum will come up to me and say, this just happened. Did I just say something inappropriate? Whereas people who are neurotypical, it doesn't occur to them. Right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't even occur to them. They just go on with their day. But I love that people who are on the spectrum will often, not everybody, but they'll say they'll say something's going on, and I'm not reading the room, and they'll often ask me because they know I'll tell them the truth, and I'll go, yeah, you could have said this or you could have said that. And maybe let's think about what are they feeling right now because you said this so that they can go and repair it. And I forget though that people don't always know there's a good friend of mine who not that long ago said something inappropriate on a Facebook post. And I responded and said, that's not an appropriate thing to ask. And then a mom wrote to me and said, I don't know if you're aware of the fact that he's on the spectrum. And so then I took the conversation to the side, which is what I should have done to begin with. But the person on the spectrum was like, "Oh, Shannon, thank you so much because I didn't know that that was an inappropriate question to ask."
Yeah.
Right. But the mom who was not the mom of the person who asked, mom of another kid on the spectrum said, "Shannon, I don't think you realize that he's on the spectrum. You can't tell him something was inappropriate." And I had to go to her on the side and say, "No, that is the relationship he and I have. He asks me to tell him, but you're right. I probably shouldn't have done it as publicly as I did." But he was like, "Oh, thank you. I didn't know that that was an inappropriate question."
Yeah.
So, it's all something, right? If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.